Do you know that Jesus really only talked about church one time in the Bible? He talked about it in the context of, he said, I will build my church and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Now the word he used for church is the word ecclesia. It means to be called out. And the idea is the church is a group of people that have been called out. They've heard the voice of God and have been called out of the world and are now sent back into the world to reach the world with Jesus, with the gospel of Jesus Christ. That is the word church. Now the context of Matthew 16 tells us some things about the church. It tells us Jesus is the one responsible for building his church. He says, I will build my church. He's not talking about a building. He's talking about a group of people who are called together to join him on mission to rescue the world. And then he says that the gates of hell will not prevail against it. You can't stop the church Jesus is building. It's going to reach into the power of darkness and pull captives out. Our responsibility is to be the church. Let me read this passage. I'm going to begin in verse 15. Who do you say I am? Jesus asked. Peter said, You're the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And Jesus responded, Simon, son of Jonah, you're blessed because flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father in heaven. And I say to you, you're Peter, which means little rock. And on this rock, the word is big rock, I will build my church, and the gates of hell will not prevail against it. Our job is to be the church. His job is to build the church. How do we do it? We do it by loving one another as the family of God. We do it by being his hands and feet in this world, by being his body. We do it by obeying the shepherd, by being his flock. We do it by being his bride, loving the groom and keeping ourselves pure. We do it by being the temple of God, a place of worship and prayer. And we do it by being the army of God where we fight in prayer. Interesting, he says, I will build my church, the gates of hell will not prevail against it. And then he says, I'll give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Interesting, in Matthew 18, he uses the same phrase, but he explains it a little more. He says, verse 18, Matthew 18, I assure you that whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. I assure you, if two of you on earth agree about any matter you pray for, it will be done to you by my Father in heaven. For where two or three are gathered together in my name, I am there among you. It's when we gather together and we pray, really pray in the presence of God, God answers, and that's how we do our part to join Jesus to build his church. Are you part of a good church? Are you being part of joining Jesus to build that church? Love the church.